Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, welcome back to the Prodcast Season 2 right now. I hope you are all practicing safety and social distancing until we can get through this COVID-19 challenge. We wanted to release these episodes to you so that you had something to listen to while you're at home with your loved ones. Of course, there's silver lining here. Hopefully, you're spending extra time with your loved ones and your spouses and your kids and all, et cetera, et cetera. The people who live in your home. You're not venturing out and partying with your friends or seeing family members who are elderly or immunocompromised. Let's keep flattening that curve, people. Until April 26th, as a show of appreciation, our main sponsor of the Prodcast Season 2 is giving free car washes to any of those who are a first responder or work in the medical profession. They're a nurse, they're a doctor, et cetera, et cetera. All you need to do is bring your ID, show it through the window when you go to any of their 5 locations in Austintown, Hallen, Niles, Cortland, Ohio, or Hermitage, Pennsylvania. You go to Coates Car Care, and they're going to give you a free wash up until April 26th. To any of those who are a first responder or work in the medical profession. That's pretty sweet. Those are the type of people that run Coates Car Care. This is a family-owned business. They've been in business for over a half century. They are fantastic. We are grateful to have them as a sponsor. And they also have really one of the coolest programs around, which is called the Unlimited Wash Program. It lets you clean your car once a day, starting out at less than $1 a day. You can sign up in any one of their store locations, or you can see more at coatescarcare.com or visit theprodcast.net. At the top left-hand portion of the website, our website, you'll see sponsors. You see the Coates Car Care logo. You click that logo. It'll take you right to their page. And you can find out all about the Unlimited Wash programs. They use made in the USA Simonized products for top quality care every single time. So check them out. Thank you for their sponsorship. And without further ado, let's get into part 1 of our Youngstown twofer. If you remember last season, season 1, we had a couple of guests from Youngstown. One of them was my friend Shane Herman, who is from the Youngstown Comedy Syndicate. Hope to get out there after this is all over with and go check him out. But we're doing another Youngstown twofer for season 2, and this is part 1 of the Youngstown twofer. Get ready to get electrified with one of Youngstown's greatest cheerleaders. Are you guys ready? Here we go. 3, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, welcome back to the Prodcast. Brandon, are you ready to get
electrified? I think it's time to get electrified.
Man, I think it might be time to get electrified as well. Interesting guest today. Pumped to have this person today. This is only our 3rd public servant that we've ever had. People will say politician. I don't like that term. I like the term public servant, and the reason is because they are public servants. The term politician kind of gets like it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's
politician.
Like
you don't even look at the Democrat, Republican, Independent.
You're like,
ooh,
he's a politician. He's a politician.
Right.
And the gentleman we have today, our guest today, is a true public servant because he didn't start in politics. He actually started in social services, which we will talk about later on. And he's worked with the other 2 guests we had. Of course, season 1, we had former presidential candidate Tim Ryan, our United States congressman, who's now running for re-election. We had Joe Schiavone, former state senator and gubernatorial candidate. And today, not running for public office, we put this on as a disclaimer because we don't have to give equal airtime to any opponent. Welcome to the show, Youngstown Mayor Tito Brown.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Man, we're doing great that you're here.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm glad to be here, man.
Like I said, lights, camera, action. Jim's got this place set up real nice for the mayor tonight.
Yeah, I like it. The pictures and the atmosphere is just right for me. I don't know about everybody else, but it works for me.
We try to make it comfortable.
Yeah, we're not super serious, but at the same time, we got some good stuff to say and got some good stuff to to listen to.
We'll talk about some serious subjects.
Well, that's good. You can't take yourself too serious in life, and if you do that, it just puts too much stress on your life and keeps you going. But I like the idea you guys call me a public servant. I mean, that's truly what I've always wanted to be in my life, was a public servant. But the difference here, let me guys help you understand, between an elected official and a politician. Politicians buy their vote. Elected officials earn their vote.
Nice.
And that's like the difference. Elected people, they get out, they see the people, they live with the people, and they work with the people. Politicians are kind of way out, and they don't come to you. You have to go to them. So that's the difference.
Well, I was really fortunate, Brandon, for your edification. I was real fortunate. I watched Tito work extremely hard during his mayoral campaign. I actually met him several years before. I don't. Maybe in the 40 under 40 thing or something like that. Yeah,
that was it.
And I think we just kind of clicked or whatever. And then we had talked a couple of times, and Two Ticks ended up doing some media for him and that kind of stuff. But really, I was impressed with the groundswell of support that you had. We went to a lot of the meetings, and he worked really, really hard. And I'm not saying this because he's here. I'm saying this as an honest fact. I'm around politics all the time as part of our business. But to see somebody work as hard as you're like the exception. A lot of people, it's like, hey, man, we've got a team and we've got our volunteers but you actually put the time in to do, door-to-doors and go on it was impressive. And of course, it paid off because he won.
Sure. But you always have to have a great team with you as well.
100%.
And it's just, for me, it's always when you ask somebody for something, it's more important if I go and ask for their vote. It's one thing if the team is there, but if all the times we're going door to door to different events, they always want to see who am I voting for.
One thing I always thought about with when it comes to people that are running is, one of the things that my wife tells me this all the time is that don't text that person or don't message that person, because when you're reading something, there is no emotion behind it. So you could say like, dude, that was a great time. They could think that you're being a joker
sarcastic,
or sarcastic or anything like that. So I get, everybody out there that has a home address, they get mailers all the time. And it's like, I can go to Google and just read this kind of stuff. But if you're going door to door, you're showing emotion. Even if it's just to say, hi, I love Youngstown. I get to actually hear you say I love Youngstown, not just read what I think how you're going to say it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think that does make the difference. I mean, if you're going to put the footwork into it, then it's going to show.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. This is a guy that truly loves Youngstown. And a couple of first meetings we had, I don't remember where we met, maybe like the Amen Corner or somewhere in Girard. We sat down and we're BSing. And, I'm kind of vetting, I'm always kind of vetting people to see,
see if I want to work with this
guy. Exactly. Do I have to really fake it, or can I just be myself?
Right.
And so that was the one thing I really noticed about Tito right away, was that his passion for Youngstown was so evident and so clear that he believed it. He wasn't just saying, oh, I want to, he and his past really solidified that, was the foundation for Youngstown. I think a lot of people don't know, and we could talk about your past and your upbringing and how you grew up, but I don't know if a lot of people know that Tito has a master's in not in social work. What is it again?
Clinical counseling.
Master's in clinical counseling, where he was a caseworker for Mahoning County Children's Services.
Right.
We had Tim Schaffner. We had Tim Schaffner on, from the executive director for Trumbull County Children's Services not too long ago. Right. Well, in season 1. And so,
and that line of work is near and dear to our hearts, especially yours with your wife.
Sure,
and everything like that. And we said it on every episode that we talked about it. It's a special type of It's a very special type of person. Right.
I always say if you've been in a social service position or if you've been out in the community to help individuals, that person, a caseworker or a therapist, you can drop them off anywhere and they can survive.
Yeah, that's true.
You have the cross training. I use it all the time. I mean, my job as mayor, your job as a mayor is to find a solution to a problem. And some of the problems that people bring to me, they're not necessarily typical mayor's response, but just my training that I've had, it just goes right into that social aspect. If I can't help them, who can? And that's kind of how we operate.
And at the same time, too, like, I think when it goes to anybody, whether you're in politics or not, like, if you hear something about children, that's basically probably the worst thing that you've ever heard in your life.
Well, especially in that field.
Especially in that field.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I think that with you having that background, if somebody says their roads are terrible or they need this, they need that, or what they saw, you're already pre-trained that that's not the worst thing you ever heard in your life. And you can tackle that problem instead of saying, like, man, that's a new problem. That's a new emotion for me.
Yeah.
Puts things in perspective, I'm sure.
It does, but when they call it for them in their mind, it is the largest thing, the biggest problem that they've ever had. And a lot of times I'll share with my wife or my mother about, I get this call from somebody and they're like, "Why did they call you?" I said, "It's because I'm the mayor and they want me to solve the problem." And they'll say, "That seems like a small thing." I said, "To you, but to them, it is the biggest thing in their life, and they need it taken care of, and that's why they call the office."
Right.
Do you get a lot of personal calls? And not personal, but I mean, do you get a lot of calls from citizens direct?
That's where it starts.
Yeah.
If it's not to the council person, it's to the mayor's office. I mean, just even things that if they'll call and say, "I call the mayor's office to find out who do I call," and we take pride in our office and our staff, and they realize that it's not necessarily something we have control over, but we find out where they should go. And a lot of times, sometime I'll call because if the message is something that I'm like, I know a little bit about that, or I can point them in the right direction, or specifically if they say something about kids, no place to live, those type of things are my words of we need to help them more and more.
How long did you work for Mahoney County CSB?
I was there about 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
That's a long time. I was just about to say that.
'Cause that's got a high burnout rate, that field.
It does, but here's the crazy part about the whole job. I took the job in 95, August of 95. I remember, to the day I took the job in 95. It was 5 years before I even thought about another job. That's how much I've got so engrossed in the work and what we were doing, and I just believed in it. And it wasn't like 5 years after that. I started looking. I'm like, "You've been here 5 years and you've not even thought about another job. You like what you do," because it went. And it got to a certain point. I'm like, I need to figure out if this is all I want to do in my life. And I had an opportunity where the university, Youngstown State, had a community organizer's job available. It was a grant. So I don't know if you guys know about grants. That's soft money. It's
right.
like it comes and goes.
And you might not have that job later on.
I might not have that job anymore. And I took a leap of faith. And I didn't know what a community organizer was. And, everybody knows now because of the president, Barack Obama was an organizer in Chicago. Prior to that, I didn't. Only thing I knew that the job of a community organizer at that point was kind of to bring folks to the table and talk about social change. And it had me at bringing people to the table. That's the one thing I really enjoyed about it. And then it talked about really making social change. And we did that for 18 months. I stayed at the university probably another 5 years, on other dollars because we just continued to work in the region and had a chance to really make some connections. And that's how I ended up on the school board and city council, president council, where they say all the rest is history because I'm sitting here as the 51st mayor of the city of Youngstown because I wanted to make social change.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of times you don't have people that come up through the ranks, or they just come up the ranks of quote unquote politics.
Or they're fishing for their rank to make it make sense today.
Right. And you actually were vested in Youngstown right from RIP at the base level. I mean, there's no more base level than kids who are in danger and helping them find homes. And
what's every politician say out there, regardless of their background? Kids are our future. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to put your money where your mouth is. If you ask, where do they stand on certain issues, ask them to look at their budget. And if their budget is focused on kids as the future, then you can realize that they're true to their word. If not, they're just giving you lip service.
Was it a hard campaign? Did you feel like when you were in it, 3 years ago, does it seem like a long time ago too?
It did, but it doesn't. It's like it's right around the corner again. It was. It was all year campaign, because we had a primary, and then we had a general, and they both were contingent, really competitive races. Mm-hmm. But I think, some of my son who's 30, he said, "Dad, I noticed something about you when you were running. You were just hungry for it." And, I tell him all the time, I say, I stay hungry. That's how I know when I've stayed in a position or stayed in a job too long, when I don't really have that fire in my belly. Mm-hmm. People ask me, "Well, how's being the mayor?" I say, "Well, here's my canned story. No day is the same. I've never had a Groundhog Day. No day. I've never had the day the same. Always exciting. The changes are going to happen, and you just got to realize today You want to get better than yesterday, and tomorrow you're going to try to live for. And every day I come to work, because my staff will tell you, it's always like we're always pushing. And if you don't push, you're not moving. So we always want to move forward.
Right. It's awesome.
Well, here's the thing, too. It's a job. This is the city of Youngstown. So for viewers, I always say that because no one's watching us.
For the prodders out.
For the prodders out listening.
That's what you guys call them, prodders.
Yeah, the prodders.
Our fan clubs. Yeah, we got fan clubs.
For any of the prodders that are outside of Northeast Ohio and aren't familiar with Youngstown, this was a city that came up that was a major industrial hub in the Midwest. But for a while, it was known as Mobtown, USA, Murder Town, USA, Bomb Town, USA. The Youngstown tune-up was a euphemism for blowing somebody up in a car. And you don't hear that right now. You don't hear that kind of story. People talk about it a little bit, but you don't hear that kind of thing. So this is a place that went through huge growth and then massive downturn.
Right.
And when you ran, there was some positive things happening. I'm not going to say, since Tito's been mayor, all this stuff's happened. There was a lot of uptick, but you've been a part of some massive, massive renaissance and change and some real perception changes within the city, and not only within the city, but within the region and within the nation. Now Youngstown is getting known. We're talking about Voltage Valley, with some of these things with electronic vehicles, and of course you got America Makes, and you've got Turning Technologies downtown and some other great things, and YSU moving down to the city, and the Cavelli Center, and now the amphitheater, and all these great things. And you've been a massive part of that. And so how is that, being witness to that, how has that made your outlook on the future change for Youngstown? I mean, is it the same? Talk about staying hungry and not getting complacent, but...
One of the things I wanted to do coming in as mayor, I really wanted to change the image of who we were. It's like everybody want to say, I remember Brandon, I remember Jim when they used to drink the bong, and I remember you were a drunker,
right,
the negative. But
are you telling personal stories here about us now?
I just got to pick that up.
I got to hide my bong water.
those are a couple things. There's a couple things I just picked up, in our 2 minutes we've been. But Youngstown had a used to be story, and everybody wanted to talk about what we used to be, and I want to talk about who we are now.
It's easier a little bit.
It is, because it'll be 50 years since Black Tuesday or Black Monday. Black Monday. Yeah. And I'm like, 50 years, and we're still trying to get our identity of who we are as a city. But I didn't want to be known for the corruption. I didn't want to be known for the murder, the drugs. And I wanted somebody to say, you know what? Wow, look what Youngstown's doing. Instead of saying, oh, that's just Youngstown. I want them to say, oh, that's Youngstown.
Right.
They took it and changed the image. So as mayor, one of the things I really focus on, and I still do it, starting my third year, building relationships that we don't have and strengthening the ones we do. We didn't play well in the sandbox with a lot of people. And I tell people, Youngstown's open for business. You don't have to owe anybody. You don't have to pay anybody. If you want to do business in the city of Youngstown, come on.
And try to find me a place that we're going to have the people, and you're going to have the cheap real estate in the Youngstown area.
The cost of living, the real estate, and the workforce here is beyond approach. But we have to get past that image of, oh man, you don't want to go there. Right. You don't want to open a business there. But I tell the leaders, the elected officials, we've got to stop that toxic environment where we want to fight amongst one another. We want to make the headlines of this group or that group. And right now, we came together and we've gotten some great publicity. Like you said, just statewide, nationally, where the both state and federal are recognizing that we're playing together. Right. you got the Democrats, the Republicans, the private and the public, all sitting in one table saying, let's do one voice, one ask for the city.
Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting, too, is that for a while there, Warren and Youngstown, we're in Warren right now, Dave Grohl Alley, right? Warren and Youngstown were viewed as these two separate, diametrically opposed cities, right? And it was well, we don't really go to Youngstown, and Youngstown, we don't really go to Warren. Mm-hmm. But now it's like a 1-2 punch, right? Yeah. Entertainment, you've got some incredible restaurants that have opened up. You've got Bistro, and you've got the Cavelli Center, and we mentioned some of these other places, V2, And then in Warren, same thing. You've got
Warren business owners are investing in Youngstown. Youngstown business owners are investing in Warren.
and it's a great 1-2 punch for the region.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, and I think we didn't think about that for a while. It was like, oh, we're only going to worry about Youngstown. Oh, we're only going to worry about Warren. No, it's the region, you know, and the region is now starting to thrive and starting to move. And I think you've done a fantastic job of changing that perception and continuing to change it.
Yeah, I really, like you mentioned a regional approach. I always say, give us the dollar and let us take it back to our region and we can split it up amongst ourselves. Instead of, you know, one of us going and asking, hey, can I have this much for my project, and you go ask for your project. How about we come together? We have a project we think is going to be the best for the region, and we'll go back and decide how it happens. But that's that whole private-public partnership. Doug Franklin, I think of him like a big brother to me. I'll ask about, hey, Doug, what do you think about this? He says, well, in my experience. And when a guy tells you in their experience, you listen.
Right.
Because it's not like, here's what I think. No. When a guy says, in my experience, he's gone through it.
Right.
So now that he can share those moments with me as a first-term mayor, how do you get through some of these tough times? And we talked about crisis. We talked about the good times and the bad times. As mayor, you're going to see it all. And then it's how do you deal with it and how do you take it in? But I love where we're going. I think people need to embrace it a lot more. I wish our media would embrace it. Some are kind of warm and cold about it because they think it's not going to last. I think they think it's a honeymoon situation. But I think if you look across the nation and look at how the world's going, the resources are not as plentiful as they were before. And investors want to see a plan, or they want to see some cooperation. And if you can get that cooperation from those individuals, and I say this all the time. I don't have too many days where I can be partisan. You know, I got to be bipartisan. Right. And I'm a Bears man. I don't know how you guys fall on the football field, but I'm a Bears fan, and that's Sunday's my only day that I'm partisan.
I'm a Browns fan.
See,
come on.
And I need to get you some examination.
On,
I know some mental health folks, you know.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you had that problem?
I've had that problem since I was a kid, but I was a Bears fan in 1985, 1986 when Walter Payton was running the Rock.
Hey, we didn't have that problem of being a Browns fan for 3 years.
Yeah, right,
you know what I mean?
right.
That's when y'all went in a hiatus, right? Did y'all go to Baltimore then?
And then won a Super Bowl 4 years later.
Yeah. To dig that thorn in deeper.
It is the reality of it. But, you know, I tell
How did you get to be a Bears fan?
I like the game of football. And I started.
Wow. So anybody that's not a Bears fan out there, you're watching baseball, man.
And, you know, listeners, you can't see. Tito looks like a middle linebacker, and he was a middle linebacker. He played for Rand?
The Rand.
Yeah, not just. Yeah. We had Eric Ryan on here last season, and he's from Strutters.
Strutters. Yeah, and it's not Struthers, it's Strutters.
Right.
Now, Strutters is famous for a lot of things, though. I mean, they've had a couple movies. I used to go watch WW. That's where my first experience with WWF was at Strutters Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute now. I'm a big wrestling fan, so you said first experience. Just viewing, or is there a backstory? Do you have
probably
more story
live.
with
Probably live.
It was live. They would bring. You know how they come? They come to the Cavelli now.
I thought maybe you were a wrestler there.
No.
I was about to say, The Rock, give him a number.
Yeah.
Just laid a smackdown real quick.
No, it was. That's how far it went
Struthers
back.
Fieldhouse. Yeah, that was it before the Cavelli.
That was the largest in the area, and you're like, that was it. Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Oh man, that was
Rocky,
my dude.
And Rocky Johnson, which is the Rock's old man.
Absolutely.
Oh, see, I don't know Rocky Johnson.
Really?
I knew Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Yeah.
They were kind of like in the same type of.
Yeah, they're both like Samoan or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, the Rock's actually African American.
Yeah. He was a brother.
I'm sorry, the Rock's.
I thought the Rock was Samoan.
His dad though, Rocky. Stay with us, Jim. Here we go.
The Rock's dad is African American. His mom is
Listen, guys, I don't watch fake fighting. I watch real fighting.
This was real fighting. I saw blood.
I'm a boxing fan and an MMA fan.
Hey,
you guys
like
can have that.
Try lacing my boots.
Yeah, you can have that fake theater fighting.
Brandon, I'm so glad you're here because you helped me because he had just got lost real fast.
Yeah.
We jumped right in.
Like, but I thought the Rock. Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute, he's not.
I thought The Rock was Samoan, man. I thought he was a Samoan dude.
Yeah. But his dad is black. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
His dad's black. His
Dwayne
grandfather
Johnson.
was Samoan.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
His grandfather was Peter Maivia.
Oh, Jesus.
On his mom's side.
We got
Samoan.
way off. We're off the rails now.
No, this is it. I mean,
this is it.
We're talking
Peter
about
Maivia was his mom's dad. His dad was Rocky Johnson. When he came out before The Rock, before almost being $1 billion Hollywood star, he came out as Rocky Maivia, and he almost got fired after a year. And he said, you know what, the fun thing, we talk about being ourselves and stuff. He went to Vince McMahon and he said, Vince, I know you're about to fire me, but can you just let me be myself instead of being this character? And just give me the microphone for one night. He went out there, he became The Rock. And now he's
smell what The Rock is.
Now he's worth $1 billion.
Jabroni, right?
But we talk, but going into the mayor and stuff, what you just said, like you can't do things routine. No. There shouldn't be a groundhog. I almost think if you're a mayor and it is a Groundhog Day, then you probably didn't do your job maybe that day. Like because like your job is to make the difference.
There's 5 words: find a problem, solve it. That's as a mayor, find a problem, solve it, and those are 5 words that I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But you got to be yourself, and they cringe when when I try to, they're like, the mayor's not mayor today. He's Tito, because sometimes I'll just really like ask a constituent, do you really believe that that's what we need to do? And they'll be honest with you, and I could have given them the political answer, but sometimes I really have to ask them, you think that's what we're doing here? And if they give us the negative or even sometimes the positive, they want to. Everybody has an idea. I got this great idea, but the city needs to put up the dollar. I'm like, you think that's really going to happen? Right. There's some checks and balances that we have to have. Yeah, Mayor, but I just thought, I say, let's figure out how we can get you maybe some people that can help you. And then I'll ask, where's your business plan? And like, what's that again? And I say, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So there's some steps that need to happen before they get to us.
You're real with people.
Yeah.
You're not sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you have people's respect.
Yeah.
And
you're downtown Mayor Tito Brown.
That's it, man. That is it.
And we talked about this going in, like for the Prodders that aren't from around here, is we're not like the small, poor area or something like that is finally starting to get better. To build a bigger picture, we were one of the most thriving places before about the 70s happened. He talked about Black Monday, 5 plants shut down, almost 100,000 jobs went out. And here's the problem, though. Youngstown had about 160. We're down to 80 now. Warren, which is only 25 miles away, went from 72,000 down to 38,000. But people can leave. But like what you said, roads aren't leaving.
No.
Houses aren't leaving. Water lines aren't leaving.
Schools aren't
leaving.
Right.
So I always kind of wanted to dive into the local mayors around here. Is you're not saying here's this fresh land, build something beautiful. You're saying you either got to do something with this area, but you still have to maintain this area that probably isn't worth that much at all, but people still how do you deal with that such a large overgrown infrastructure for the amount of people that we actually have and move it forward?
You take it one step at a time. You kind of look at the plan. That's why you look at geographically where your people are, and then kind of figure out where can I best make an impact at this time. The prime example of east side of Youngstown is a lot of land, not as many people. So you have Mrs. Johnson, who's living on the street, and she's the only one on that street. Trying to get her to say, no, you want her to move out. And she's like, no, I've been living here all my life, so I still have to plow that and maintain that road while she's living there.
Right. And I think Detroit did this years ago, and it was in the papers, where they were taking neighborhoods that only had 1 or 2 people, and now I believe it's becoming farmland.
Sure.
How that sounds great on paper. Well, then move everyone out of here and plow that area. But how there's you can't just do that overnight type deal.
And it's you have to be delicate about it. Mrs. Johnson that might have been, if she comes from the era where she came from the Southern migration from the South, and owning a home was really important to her. They had never owned a home. This is her only home she's ever had. And to try to take that away from her, even if you told her, I'll put you in a better one, she knew that her and her husband, they raised their kids in there, they raised their grandkids in there, but they did it with their sweat equity.
Right.
And for you to come in and say, let's just take it away and it doesn't mean that much to us. She truly believes that that's a piece that, it's her legacy. So you have to be delicate with that. And as mayor, I take that truly to heart. And the way I govern, I'll look and say, what if that was my grandmother or my mother? How would I operate?
Well, Youngstown kind of got famous for a minute there for the Youngstown 2010 plan, right? Is there a Youngstown 2030? Is there some development of different stuff?
Yeah, we're working on, I always say 2020 and beyond, because I don't want to handicap us to a certain. Everybody thought when 2010 came that this great boom, everything was going to blow up. But I think planning is you do it in succession.
Incremental.
You do it here. That's why I say 2020 and beyond. What's that? That beyond is where you got to figure out what's next. Where do we go? For us workforce, how do we attract business here? More than just attracting them, I want to make sure those are here. I want them to stay, and then I want them to grow. Because if they've already got a little bit of skin in the game, if they've already invested in the city of Youngstown, they're more likely to say, you know what? I've already got a base here. My staff's here. My family's here. Let's invest more. And we're seeing a lot more of that. Local investors or developers are coming. We get some that come outside from the area, but typically they have some connection. And that's the one thing we really want to tap into more, that who have some connection. They call them the boomerangs. They leave and come back.
Yeah.
And they seem to be the ones that are thirsty when they come back, and they're hungry because they've gone to other places, they've looked at other places, then they come back home and say, man, I got a gym here. Mm-hmm. I can really do a lot more here. The dollar is a lot more valuable, has more value here than in California or the East Coast or West Coast because of, the population and the competitiveness they have out there. And you can work from anywhere now.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, call centers are shutting down all the time. And I prior to me owning my own business, I used to work at cell phone company call centers. And now they've either shut down or I have
Could you
so
imagine
many
getting
friends.
that call? You'd be like talking for
Same
an
for
hour,
talking about the same
like
thing.
2 hours, like, oh my God.
Same 3-minute phone call over and over. I can help you pay your bill. But long story short, a lot of my friends are working from home now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's.
Well, I thought it was interesting that you mentioned, for the prodders out there, Doug Franklin is the mayor of Warren. He is in his 3rd term now. Mm-hmm. And you guys actually this is kind of funny because it's not funny, like ha-ha funny, but a couple of weeks ago, I got hired on a job to shoot some B-roll for a documentary for a professor in Northwestern that is making a story about the closing of the Vindicator, about the newspapers or newspapers are closing. And so we followed Renee Fox from the Tribune, and she did a story that was about the closing of St. Joe's, and then also the closing of Northside. Yeah. So here are 2 mayors that have similar problems. Yours is not quite as bad as St. Joe's yet.
Now,
and what's funny is we were across the street from the barber shop where your campaign headquarters were at. I was actually telling Renee, I go, oh, hey, I said, that's where Tito's campaign headquarters were at, was across the street. So the remediation of these buildings that are now being abandoned, these major structures, how do you handle stuff like that? Because Brandon was talking about, neighborhoods that are now like farming neighborhoods, or you're changing the landscape, you're changing the usage of the land. Yeah. Any plans for Northside Hospital? Is that, how's that going to work out?
We don't know. We stay in constant contact with them. And there's another role that I put on as mayor. Now I'm a real estate broker. I'm trying to find someone, who can go in there. And you're always on the phone, or you say if someone say I'm looking for a space, and you're like, bingo, I got a space. So we don't want to be the St. Joseph of the world, but in the same way that we don't have a lot of control over. It'd be great. Unfortunately, it'd be great if you just tore the building down and did a demolition on it. It's probably a lot more valuable as a location without all those buildings, because the hospital, they always say the hospital is always, that's all it really can ever be. Right. Or it can be a nursing facility, right. But it's very difficult to call it anything other than that.
Condos or things of that nature. That's difficult.
A condo, you got emergency room, a couple steps down. So it is very difficult. And
where do you live? Right next to an emergency room, right before surgery. Make a left.
Yeah,
you would probably change the emergency room though. That would maybe like a greeting room or something of that nature, right? I mean,
I guess I see what he's saying. It's just hard because you can't change the
dollar.
It's hard to retrofit that.
The dollar for retrofitting is probably, I would say, 4 or 5 times more than just demoing and clearing out.
Now,
start with a blank canvas.
Does it scare you? Because unlike our mayor, you can actually see what that place can look like by looking.
Yeah, because Northside still has services in there now, right? But St. Joe's really kind of doesn't.
St. Joe's is done. Like it just.
Well, Someplace Safe is actually in there, which is it's really weird.
It's a building off of it.
It's the building off of it, but it's right next door.
Yeah.
There's some not to get into that whole story, but there's human trafficking going on, man. It's a bad situation. But
not at someplace safe. Let's make sure that we don't.
Yeah, not at someplace safe. Yes. At the old St. Joe's.
Right.
I went through it, and I mean, there's people that may or may not be living in there. There's drug use in there. There's people are stealing stuff. I mean, it's a bad situation. But and you're hoping that that's not what Northside turns into, obviously.
Sure. I mean, this is not the first time that we've had a local hospital closed down in the city. We used to have the Southside Hospital, and then there was Cafaro Hospital, and then there was two. So we've had this happen. The fortunate piece that we've been able to experience in those two buildings that someone came in and took over those facilities and repurposed them for whatever. Now one's the county Oak Hill Renaissance is in there, which is a great use of the space other than having it being vacant. But now the Youngstown Orthopedic is there's several social service agencies which taking advantage of that location. But the issue is the size and the capability, who's able to come in and do so. So we're actively talking to developers, let's get a project manager and talking to Stewart always. And they have changes. They have, different people in one region, they leave and they're moving around because they're still operating. They have other places where they have facilities and they're doing that. So we have to keep up on it, to say the least. The bottom line is that we don't stay silent with it. They say they want to be good neighbors and they want to find somebody to go in there, and we kind of make sure we keep their feet to the fire.
And to change gears a little bit, to focus on the challenges, let's focus on some of the positives too.
Oh yeah,
summertime. We've got the amphitheater.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had Eric Ryan on from JC Live, and he's brought in some amazing shows. Any shows that you're looking for coming toward Youngstown in the summertime? I mean, how is that? Because that's a huge economic development generator, right?
It is.
You're bringing people in to come to these shows. They had Florida Georgia Line and Zach Brown and some great shows, at Youngstown State. How's that been? Blake Sheldon, right?
It's been phenomenal.
Crazy, right?
And here's me, at 48, Gucci Mane. I got a chance to meet Gucci Mane last year. I'm like, who? And I'm telling my son, I'm like, this guy's coming, Gucci Man or Gucci, and he's
Gucci,
like,
sir.
He's like, Dad, Gucci Mane? I say, yeah, Gucci Mane. He said, you gonna meet him? I say, I think so.
Did your son pull the My Dad's America card and go with you?
He didn't. he didn't. He was there though. He was there, And then when I took him the picture, he was like, "Oh, you're the coolest dad ever." I said,
for sure, man.
But I think Eric Ryan and we talk all the time. We talk about our needs and our expectations of that amphitheater. Is what do we want it to be? Mm-hmm. It's city owned, but it's a regional attraction. And he threw a couple names at me the other day, and I'm like, whoa! I'm talking about I'll be full out if they came. I'm full out. Going back into my day of this is one of those type artists.
Yeah, right.
If they came,
right.
I'm full out. There's like I thought the mayor was going to be here. Yeah, that's the dude up in front. You see him, jumping up and down. That'll be me if we can pull that off.
I'll tell you what. With the amphitheater, an amphitheater can get a name quicker than a different type of arena. And like, if he starts saying, "Well, I think we just need to get a lot of tribute bands here." Try to pump the brakes a little bit. Now, I have much respect about our local hometown amphitheater.
Yeah. Shout out. They're doing a nice job.
They're doing it. It's packed
but
every night.
We need to get original acts.
Yeah,
listen,
we need to get original
When
acts.
I talk about original...
Oh, I see it.
It's like...
No, you guys get some good shows.
It's head cracking. I mean, the Beach Boys are coming, but, some people
I like the Beach Boys.
There's a time and a place because I think community, not
it's
everyone
not
can
the
afford.
real Beach Boys, though. It's the real Beach Boys, but like the Beach Boys broke off. So you have Mike Love... and you have the other guys. Like, it's a different...
So is it an original member on there?
There's original members on there, but it's not all those guys.
So
it's not.
Yeah,
it's a different setup.
But speaking in downtown, can we talk about a little bit of a downtown situation real quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever, man.
So to many, again, prodders that aren't out there is so Cleveland, Youngstown, Warren had a bunch of people went down, infrastructure. We already just talked about all that stuff, but we're all making a comeback, and it's all starting in the downtown areas. Mm-hmm. Cleveland's downtown is completely different than 10 years ago. Youngstown is completely different. Now Warren is completely different. So we talk about a lot of the great things. Like downtown Youngstown, like I'm born and raised here. I'm about to be 35. Like it was scary to try to tell people, let's go downtown Youngstown.
No doubt. I was going to bring that up earlier.
Let's go down to Warren. There's only one bar in Warren. I'm not going there anymore. Now people are actually calling me up saying,
let's go downtown.
Let's go downtown. Right. So it's like these beautiful places. One of my clients, Mocha House, shout out to them. Like they just opened up an amazing new cafe
downtown.
Yeah, right downtown. They have no idea the foot traffic.
What up, Nick and Bill?
Yeah, they have no idea the traffic they're going to get from that amphitheater because they're real close to that the Eastern Gateway community. But do you have the same problem? Because I follow a lot. Let me get a little closer to the mic here. I follow a lot with Warren here, but Warren seems to have like his problem is that too much focus is being down here, even if it's public work or private work. Too much focus is going on in downtown, and then the outsiders kind of sometimes, not the majority, because I think the majority of Youngstown and Warren people, they love what's going on in their downtown. But do you have that constant fight of, I know Youngstown is looking downtown Youngstown's looking extremely beautiful, but we're still taking care of you guys as well, type deal?
You mean as far as neighborhoods? If
there's a lot of I'll read comments and they're like, oh, another place is getting attention downtown, but our streets are still have no curbs.
Yeah, it's the delicate balance. But if you look at any planning or economic development for any city, the downtown is the heartbeat.
Right.
And now all the pieces that come off of that into the neighborhoods, and that's one of the pieces that you talk about wanting to really work on. The core and corridors for me is big. Going into the city and coming out of the city is a focus of mine. But I think you'll realize that as those pieces are growing, then you can take those downtown neighborhoods and place them in places, where individuals don't necessarily have to come downtown for everything. There's a time and place. We have the restaurants, we have some entertainment venues. But if I'm living, on the south side of Youngstown, maybe I just want to go to the dry cleaners. I want to get a cup of coffee. There's great things downtown, coffee houses downtown, but what about, in my neighborhood? Can I go and get a good coffee, get on the Wi-Fi? So there are several pieces that you can try to work. You got to work into the neighborhood. So it's a delicate balance. So now I'm growing in downtown, but I also got to make sure that we don't forget
Miss Jackson on that one street.
Absolutely. So she doesn't she's not looking to go downtown because she's not into the bar or that life. But she may want to stop and get a nice little sandwich, or she wants to stop and see what's, get her dry cleaning or pick up something from a pharmacy. So those pieces are all when you plan. You got to plan. But people need to realize that if the downtown just didn't grow, then people are not coming and spending that money.
Right.
So I take that downtown revenue and put it into my neighborhoods out in the community where I can put roads, I can do curbs, I can do some aesthetics, or in our business development department, now we can give those business owners who are outside in the neighborhoods some incentives to improve their business. So it's a delicate balance. But when I talk about the core and corridors, what I've started doing is working with different mayors and townships that are adjacent to the city. Liberty, we got a safety study going on in Liberty for Belmont Avenue. We got a corridor piece that I'm working on with the mayor of Camel. We're working on the township trustees in Boardman, as well as Austintown for Market Street and for Mahoney Avenue. So we're trying to make sure that when we go again, here's what we're asking. We're asking for street upgrades, lighting upgrades, but then we want to put some high speed fiber optics in the ground as well when we're doing. So we asked the governor, we asked our state legislators and our federal legislators for dollars for that. We asked for one voice, one ask. So now you have it's not 4 or 5 different communities. It's one community or one voice asking for this multiple. So if I'm a legislator, I'm like, that's a winner for me.
Right.
Because now I got all those communities are going to be satisfied because of those corridor pieces. So that's the piece that we have to continue, because I want people when they come to Youngstown, when you're coming to a concert, you got to get to downtown. So how do I get there? Through my corridor.
Right.
And if you're driving through the corridor and you're like, it doesn't look safe. But if it looks like we're moving, we're taking care of business on our corridors, people are like, oh, this is nice. And I don't want you to see a difference when you get off A80 coming down Belmont. When you're in Liberty and you get to Youngstown, you can tell the difference. I want you to be like, oh, it's seamless.
Right.
It's a good connection.
I have one complaint about overall. If you ask me what my biggest complaint about Youngstown is,
okay,
and I would like to see if there's any plans for it.
Okay.
Market Street.
Hey,
Just repave Market Street.
That's a done deal.
Done deal. That was
Downtown
easy. That was
Youngstown to
easy.
Boardman.
Done deal.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I probably
But
went through 7 cars.
that's to keep you-
I used to work on Market Street, and
So
what's it going to take to just repave it? Just even one side.
Nope. Here we go. So in 2020, you'll see Market Street paved.
What?
Yeah, and it's a state route. It's a state
Yeah.
route. So
Right.
here's what I've learned, and there again, a mayor. Now I'm an engineer. I'm a street
engineer.
I'm a street engineer. You know, it's, figuring out how to get the roads fixed. Once they do that road, let's say they do it in 2020, they don't look at those roads for another 10. They don't even. Yeah. But my problem is that we should be in front of them and say, hey, listen. It's starting to get a little shabby.
Right.
Let's not wait until. So it's probably been 10 years since they did it. It's probably 2 years past when they should have come and said, hey, yeah, this should be up on the list a little bit more because of the traffic pattern. Because of the traffic. You got to, taking things, don't just put it as a cookie cutter. We don't look at them before 10. Well, Market Street has, 20,000 or 30,000 count. That's a little different than somewhere else. If Glenwood has, maybe a 5 or 10 count. So there's a difference. So that will. We just did I did a release in the last 3 weeks, and that's going to be on there. Oh, and so that's one of the things.
You get a lot
so
of
read
traffic
the
from
news,
Boardman.
Brandon. Probably hard though because the Vindicator closed.
Well, 422 and Warren had the same problem.
Oh yeah,
I used
big
to say.
time, right?
I used to always tell people my dream was always to drive on the moon, so I just go on 422 on my off time.
Yeah.
So. But because Market Street can be an awesome shortcut to get you to a lot of different businesses that you're looking for. But I go the long way because it's just hell.
Well, and that's the thing. When we look at, and for me, if it's something that we could do internally from the city side, yeah, we don't. I mean that road will cost us probably our whole what we call our urban paving projects, the small streets that are in the community. That would be our whole budget.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's going to happen. It's on my social media. It's on the mayor's page. We put it out, so just get Brandon on there. And I got to get you on.
Check it out. Check it out at what's the social media page?
It's just Mayor Tito Brown.
Mayor Tito Brown.
Yeah.
Well, here's another question, because this is a Warren thing too, and I know this has come up in Youngstown as well. Of course, you guys have the food or the kitchen incubator.
Yeah.
What's
food
that?
Deserts. You know what the kitchen?
Yeah.
Oh, the kitchen incubator is like where you can go. Like, shout out to Barry from Joe Schmo's Kitchen. Joe Schmo.
Oh yeah, I know them.
Yeah, right. So that's where they make their Joe Schmo's seasonings and their Barry and Amanda.
Is a kitchen incubator just like any type of other?
Yeah, it's like a business incubator, except you're making different stuff. Whether it's hot peppers or whether it's sauces or whether it's whatever. I just
Or
met
if you
a
just
girl.
have a dream of being in culinary.
But I think the
start
big
there.
thing with everyone asking is like, downtown Warren is a food desert. There's no, unless you go out Mahoning, there's no grocery store or no small grocery store locally.
Full service. Food insecurities is one of those things we've been working on, is to get a full service grocer, in the area. And we have some grocers, and I want to make that clear that we have some grocers who are invested into their grocery stores locally. So those are some pieces that we need to work on, and we're trying. We're trying to work with those. So it's called like that last mile. Individuals have to go so far. When we grew up, there were grocery stores everywhere.
Everywhere.
But now it just seems that they move further away from the urban core, even the university. We talk with President Tresso and his staff, and they're trying to figure out how when mom and dad drops the kids off, well, where can they get their groceries? It's like, there is a Save-A-Lot, and there's a Walmart, but they're just a little bit like 7-8 miles away, and that's not within walking distance.
Speaking of the university, what a tremendous turnaround has YSU done. And so I've been out of school for about 18 years. Maybe it's just me, but long story short, when you graduated from high school in 2003, you either went far away to get the college experience and go to what they would call a real college, or you went to YSU to get your degree. Right.
Well,
I've been down there.
right.
I've been down there in the last few years.
Yeah.
That is you want to go there. That's a beautiful campus.
Yeah.
What has that done? because I know Jim Tressel has done an amazing job down there, and a lot of things, like everyone says, the mayor does everything, whatever. But sometimes other things get done. But what has that done for the image of Youngstown?
It's critical. It's a critical relationship and partnership that we have with the university, because in any city, you find if there's a good partnership between the city and the university, they thrive. The one thing I did ask Mayor Coleman from Columbus, I said, what would you tell me as a new mayor that I needed to do when I become mayor? He says, make sure you have a good relationship with the university.
Okay.
And that's what Columbus was able to do. I look at the university like my rich uncle.
Oh, yeah.
They have the money. You benefit from it, but it's not yours. And we look at the growth that they're having in the university right now. And the thing that you talk about our downtown or the university, we want them to be one of the same. You won't know if you're on campus, you're on the or if you're downtown.
Yeah.
And we're really focusing. We just had a scooter company come in the other day. They want to bring the scooters in, and the focus is
where you pay and then you drive them around.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We want to figure out how to connect the university to downtown. Get on the scooters, that last mile you got, or if you don't feel like kind of walking up or down, here you go. Here's a scooter. So we're thinking more past where we are now and what other cities are able to do in the future. But one of the things I want to clarify, my Facebook is Mayor Jamael Tito Brown, and then my Twitter is Town Tito Brown.
So if you guys want to find out there, Prodders in the Prodder universe, more info about Youngstown and Youngstown downtown Mayor Tito Brown, you can find all this stuff out. I want to jump back a little bit though, because you had mentioned about Doug Franklin and the mayor you just mentioned from Columbus,
Coleman,
Mayor Coleman. I have to say this. And particularly because the next time I see her out in a social function, I want to get a hug. Behind every great man is a great woman. I can say this personally myself.
We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, we talk. I know Brandon can say this as well. Lynette Frost Brown.
Good. He's good.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Because, so I met Tito, and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And, I was like,
right.
yeah, I was like, oh, this dude's
You
pretty
do look like a cool guy.
Hey,
yeah, I was like,
only cool?
I was like, this dude's pretty cool, but I got to see, because how many kids do you have? You have four kids.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I this could be like a shell game. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I'm vetting. So then I met Lynette, and I was like, oh, this is probably the same.
Why
yeah,
Mayor Brown's Mayor Brown.
right. And this is probably the same thing that happens with me. People are like, oh, that's your wife. Oh, you're married to Renee. That's what. So you talk about a strong woman behind a strong man. Like Lynette seems to hold it all together and keep it all together. And I have to ask this question because, as I told my wife today, as I'm dressed in t-shirts and a t-shirt and jeans, and
She wants you in polos. I've heard this.
Yes, I know. And she
Is that a step up?
Yeah.
Brandon's got a nice polo on with his logo. Would you ever think about getting a logo on the polo?
She did too. Because I go, hey, we're getting with Tito Brown today. We're gonna have him on the show, and she was
You're wearing that?
Yes, she 100%. She goes, he's such a sharp dresser. What are you?
You are sharp.
What are you wearing? Because you can't see Prodders right now, but he's got a very nice,
clean.
Yeah,
Just
lavender,
solidly clean.
like a lavender button down with a beige. It's probably a
Boots
different
match,
color, like a
everything.
camel color sports jacket, and the tie matches the camel color sports jacket. He's got a pocket square. He looks very good.
Right.
Did Lynette dress you today, or is this you?
This-
Hey, Brian Lyons is in the background, like making this thing about your head getting bigger.
Wait a minute.
'cause he-
So 5 minutes of building up Lynette was just based off of...
No, he wants to know
dress?
how do I get to this point in my life?
Yes.
That's what
Right.
It was all about.
Right.
Man, I know your wife dresses you.
Yeah. Right.
Now she does a lot of things for me, but I have a pretty good eye.
I love it.
It is. She's an advisor to me some mornings. And then some mornings she's gone before or I'm gone before she gets up, or so we may not see each other. And when I come back, she typically does not say, "Oh, did you wear that to work?" So I don't
Mine
get that.
does. Mine says all
I don't
the
get
time.
that. And it was Friday, so it's Friday, and it was kind of I just kind of there's a certain look I want to have on certain days. It's just how I feel. But we try to make sure that we dress the part.
Well, she's a wonderful, wonderful person. She's a wonderful woman. You're very, very lucky. Oh, yeah. You're very, very lucky.
I married her above my pay grade.
Yes, you did.
We talk about it all the time. Like, it just takes, like, no offense to anybody, whether you're women or men, that just work your 8 to 5, you do your routine thing, and you're out. Like, I mean, I guess that would seem like the most easiest thing to have a partner doing that. That's what they do. You just move on. You enjoy your afterlife. But when you're in
your afterlife,
not in your after, you're
after work, after work,
your afterlife.
Yeah, well, that couldn't be after the life, your 8 to 5 life.
But me and Jim talk about this all the time. Like, it really does take a special person to be with somebody that's not in a normal 8 to 5, and not that that's because we're cool or anything like that. It's just at the end of the day,
we're pretty cool too.
Oh, we are pretty cool. At the end of the day, it's like, I'm sure, just like Jim, just like me, work is never done.
Yeah.
And
being the mayor, you're a 24/7. Yeah. It's a 24/7 job.
And your ideas are never done. Like, you don't ever leave. They always say, leave your work at home. Like, if I left my work at home, I'm losing clients. I'm losing opportunities.
Right.
But my wife, I got to give her so much credit. She'll say, bro, you're thinking about...
Did she say bro?
She doesn't say bro.
Hey, bro.
She says...
My man.
Hey, honey.
My man.
Hey, honey. She says... But she'll say at times, she'll say, I think you're overthinking this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know you want to do this. I know you want to do this, but have you finished this yet? I'm like, no, I haven't finished that. Well, she'll keep me on track in ways that my mind, like, does your wife ever do that with you? Like, are you ever thinking of, like, so many things? And then she's like, she kind of puts it in perspective as, like, I'm not saying the normal person, but, like, she puts it in perspective as, honey, this is what needs to be. You were doing good focusing on this. Why don't we concentrate on this and then move on to this?
Yeah, she's one of my best advisors.
Right. That's
we go over things and we talk about things, and her strategy sometimes is a little stronger than mine. I'm like, oh, you think we should? Yeah, that's what we should. No, love it. Okay. I think I'm always the one that wants to swing the bat with the lead at the end. She's like, no, just take the lead out and just let's hit him with this. But she knows my heart. She knows the pains that I have with this job. I think because, again, if you did this job and it did not focus on just the job, and I focus on the people. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, while I'm sitting in this seat, if we're not changing people or affecting people, there was no reason for me to sit in it. And that's where you're going to learn the pain, because people and personalities and behaviors are all those things that can change that dynamics of how you feel about things. So she is that person. And you mentioned me working in children's service, and she loves when I tell this story. We work together.
Oh, I didn't know
That's
that.
where I met my wife at Mahoney County Children's Service.
I was going to ask you, how long have you been married?
Yeah, we've been married 15 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've been married 15 years. She was the first person that came up to me. She had been there for some time already. And she walked up, hi, my name is Lynette. If you need anything. I told her. She brought me an apple and the pencils, and she was a googie out at me. She was like, oh, look at him.
Is she going to admit to this?
She won't, but she will admit that I was minding my business, sitting in my chair the first day I got there, and she was like, let me know if I can help you at all. And here we are. Well, it's 20 some years later, but 15 years later, 4 kids later, a house, a dog, all that. But the thing about, I always say to people, if I talk about your relationship with your wife or significant other, the one thing I realized what we were first, we were best friends. Mm-hmm. Like right now, she'll bring up old girlfriends to me. Remember you used to date the crazy girl? I'm like, do we have to bring that up? And then I'll go into hers. Well, I remember that one. She said, he was never my boyfriend. He was never my boyfriend.
Well, I know Jim said that we can't timestamp anything, but Joe Biden's wife, did you see that where she pushed a protester out of the way? What would have Mrs. Brown done?
She's done that. I mean,
that's what's up. That's what's up.
Recently, we were at Tim Ryan's rally when he decided he was going to run for president, and there was a guy. He's always in our face about things, and she was like, "Back up." I'm like, "Okay."
That's amazing.
And I always tell her, she's a girl from the East Side, but she comes from a very good Christian family, but in her heart, she loves hard. And she, she's very protective. It's that mama bear. Papa bear, you expect that. But mama bear, if you got mama bear riled up, you in trouble. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she has that mama bear type attitude. And she's very she'll cuddle you. But if things are going the wrong way, she's like, back up.
Somebody asked me the other day, like, which first lady do you like and stuff like that. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I really don't know what a first lady does. But I do know what my wife does for me and what I do for my wife. And it's almost like I almost think that the women, or if you're a female running for office or whatever you're in, the male, I think they need to get more credit, almost like be put on the ballot as well type deal. Because at the end of the day, you're telling your wife and what you want to do and your frustrations and your excitement to that single person more than anybody else in the world. And that person is putting you, whether it's, you know what I mean? Like that is just...
Yeah, that's true.
It really takes a special person, but they're just considered the first. And then like, you know, they make a meal plan for schools across America type deal. You know what I mean? But I think they need way more credit.
Sure.
Because they could single-handedly tell you need to knock it off, and then you might destroy something.
Yeah.
Or they could say, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And you're going to listen to them. I'm not saying you don't listen to your advisors, but
No, you're right.
you're
right.
going to listen to that loved one.
Yeah.
Because it's that connection you have with them. And for me, you're right. The first lady, and I you know Jim will tell you that there's pictures with me and my wife on purpose because I want people to see that this is not just me.
Right.
It's the family, but her engagement and her involvement in the community comes as well.
And it helps she's attractive.
Yeah, that does not hurt at all, right?
No, I'm serious. Like, think about this. If Tito was married to a woman who was not as attractive as Lynette, they'd be like, oh well, he got this chick.
Yeah.
But he said he married above his pay grade. I'm in the same boat. I married up. So that has to say something. They go, this guy must have some of his shit together because he got this fine woman to hang out with him and be with him.
Right.
Yeah. She always tells me the other guys would have been a mayor if they would have stuck around. But look at me.
That is awesome. You're there because of me.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. She'll tell me, well.
She keeps you real.
That's all we know.
Yeah,
I mean,
right, that's us
if
too.
you come into our household, I always say, we need to be a YouTube family because you imagine, because my girls are 14 and our youngest is 10. My oldest is 30.
You have twins.
Yeah, twin girls, and they're playing volleyball. He's playing soccer and basketball, and here I am running the city of Youngstown, and here she has to be the mom, the wife, the driver, the licensed social worker, and all those things rolled up into one. And then I'm looking at her and say, hey, I need to be on the schedule today for you guys. Dad wants to go do this, and this. And I'm like, But we figure out how to do it. Like, today I'm thinking, well, what do we do for dinner? Do we go out? Do we dine in? So we always try to change the dynamics where, there's events that they love going. Now, when it comes to concerts at the Cavelli or the amphitheater.
Yeah, they got their perks.
When you're meeting Gucci Mane,
Gucci
everyone
Mane,
wants to go.
yeah.
They're dressing up on a
listen.
random Wednesday night to go to a ball that they would not be dressing up if I worked at AT&T.
If I tell them, hey, you guys want to meet such and such, I think it was going to be Brown. What was his name? The country singer.
Chris Brown?
No.
Or not Chris Brown.
Not Chris.
He was just
not
here.
Chris Brown's.
Chris Brown's R&B.
Chris Brown was slapping Rihanna. What's the other guy's name? Yeah, I'm not a country guy. But anyways.
Long story short.
I mentioned his name, and they just lit up like a Christmas tree. Oh, yeah. I said, oh, now
Zach
you guys.
Brown.
Zach
Brown, that's what it is.
They wanted to go see Zach Brown. It was like, oh. Yeah, membership has its privilege when they want it.
Right.
But I thank God for my family. That's where my sanctuary's at.
Mm-hmm.
When I go home and there, it's your dad. There's no mayor. It's, hey man, you need to take the trash out and stop and get some milk.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? And you need to get your plate and put it in the dishwasher.
Right.
So that's where your grounding is at. And I think for anyone who's in public life, if you have that in your life, it makes it all so much better. And I didn't even get to my mother, getting to my mother's house, and where here's what she has for me. She has the Vindicator article. So she'll either ask a question two ways. I saw you in the paper the other day. What's that about? No, yeah. Because she cuts out. She's got a scrapbook for me.
How old's your mom?
Man, really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, he's not going to about her, right?
When I see her, you see
she's
her,
65.
Yeah.
Your mom's 65.
Yeah, and she's going to tell you that she's not 65, and you better not.
Is your mom going to listen to this?
She's 49.
No, I'm going to, when I see her and Jim's around, I'm like, this guy asked me how old you were.
Well, let her know that she could become a world famous product if she listens to this product.
No, I'm gonna tell her, hey, he asked how old you were, Mom. They want to know how much you weighed. Two things you don't ask a woman. No,
Can I talk a little bit of you're from a big city. I want to break this down a little bit more towards the city. And my boy over here, Jim Fogarty, he went to a private school, but I think just like yours, just like you, we went to public school. Is that correct? You graduated from Rain?
The Rain.
Yeah, the Rain, and I graduated from the Warren G. Harding High School.
Gotcha.
And I probably just like yourself, I thought that was the world's greatest school. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed every process of it. I thought that this was there's nothing better out there. But when I grew up and I looked at the bigger picture, let's just kind of be real here. You know what I mean? Reports aren't showing the best with the public schools in Youngstown and Warren.
Sure.
But they're on the uprise. And how as a mayor, especially with Youngstown, I had a great time in Youngstown, right? Well, that's because I went to Ursuline, or I went to, sorry for even saying Ursuline, but I went to these private schools and stuff like that. But it's almost like if you go to the public school, you're not getting the same education or the same opportunity as if you went to these other schools that are really doing really well out there. I really just want to kind of know, what kind of focus does a mayor of Warren and Youngstown have on the public schools? Because they are really great. If people would just step in, they would just see that give this thing a chance and it would work. But how do you make Youngstown City Schools the greatness that you believe that it is?
You make sure that it's part of your agenda. And for me, it's the mayor.
We talked about that during the campaign.
Yeah, I don't run the city schools, but I need to be a part of it. And I've taken on the pledge. I have what I call an educational attainment committee, and it's the pathways. When I came out of high school, it was either college or the military.
Right.
And there's so many other pathways right now for kids to when they leave and where they can land. We're now figuring out how to offer that to them. But je parle français, je m'appelle Jamael. Est-ce que tu parles français from public school? I learned how to speak French in public school. When I got to college.
Parlez-vous français?
That's the thing.
Oui.
What Warren had to offer, the public schools have to offer, private schools or township schools can't even touch it.
Sure.
But why do they do so great and the public school is or why do they, how can we make these city schools
I'll answer
great?
that question, really. I think a lot of it has to deal with the economics of inner city.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But that doesn't mean that he could just put that on the side.
No, you can't.
I don't mean
can't.
that. Yeah,
But
right.
you take that into account. But I think also the test. Here my kids. And there was a question the other day. Quentin asked a question. He says, let's say it was pop or soda. There were two words. Now you use one on the test and versus the other. He may not be that. He knows what it is if you showed it to him. But the word that you use may be a little different. Merry-go-round. How many of you kids haven't been exposed to merry-go-round? So if these tests are using words that are not familiar or kids have not been exposed to, then it gives you I don't know anything about a soda pop, or together. So I think you make sure that we have the social economics are there, but you got to also look at the trauma. The trauma that these kids are facing that you and I did not face.
Right.
Mm-hmm. If you look at the 6 o'clock news.
They didn't eat before they went to school.
Yeah.
They don't have clean clothes. Dad's not involved.
When I grew up, you didn't see that it wasn't as prevalent. When you came to school, you saw kids that look a little shabby, but it wasn't.
Was it not as prevalent, or nowadays we have social media that makes it prevalent? I tell my mom all the time.
Yeah.
She said, we used to hitchhike back in the day. I think, personally, I believe people still got messed up.
Yeah.
If you still hitchhike today, I think that there would be the same stats, but there was no one explaining the stats as easy as it was with social media.
I think your point is the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
Everything's it's real time.
It's not even 24 hours. It's within 3 or 4 minutes on
it's
Twitter.
Real time. It's the exposure. It's amazing what we decide should go on to social media. Everything. There's no. Well, don't put that on. Nope. Put it on there. Put it on there. Put it on there. And
I ate brisket for dinner tonight.
Yeah, and
I'm guilty of that.
It was a little chewy,
right?
It's really, who wants to know that? The sauce was a little warm for me, Or then you want to talk about the after. So I think you just continue to fight, for public education and for kids to get the best education, because education is the foundation of life. Nothing you can do to me right now you can't take away that I've learned, and much of that was from my public school education. And when I tell people, I took French and not Spanish, I just thought French was the coolest language there was. And, when Mrs. Lyden would speak in French, I'd be like, woo-wee, I like that.
You ever been to France?
I have not. I don't even know if I put it on my bucket list, but it just...
All right, you and Lynette, the next time I see Lynette, I'm going to tell her, Tito said he's taking you to France for your 15-year anniversary.
Get a camera out, and I want to see... I want to see what her response is, because she's like, and how long is that flight?
Hey, and shout out to Youngstown's football team, right? Was it the Golden Bears? It's not the Golden Bears anymore, right? Is it the Golden Bears now?
They're still the Golden Bears, yeah.
Right. And then Youngstown East, they're doing phenomenal in football. Like they had a bad program for a while. I know we were talking about football.
They've changed that around.
And he came from, did he come from more than the head coach?
No, Valley Christian.
Valley Christian, yep. Okay.
Yeah, Brian Merrill. Yeah, they're killing it in rugby.
Rugby, yes.
Yeah, they're killing it in rugby. They took the state champion in rugby, man.
Yeah.
Youngstown school?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
They're doing it.
Oh, they love that game.
Really?
It's rough and
tumble. It makes sense because it's almost rougher than football
rough.
sometimes.
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
rough.
helmets.
Yeah. I don't know. I was middle linebacker. I would have to think twice about playing that game like that.
But they did it.
They did.
They're doing it.
They did.
Did you have a lot of hits when you were playing middle linebacker?
I was decent.
Coming across the middle?
I was decent. I was decent.
Right. You can tell Tito was probably smashing dudes.
Yeah. I love the game. Still today, I love the game. That's why the NFL doesn't attract me as much as college. College is still...
Who's your college team? The Ohio State University?
The O State. But I'm an SEC. I like the Clemsons of the world because those guys coming out of that Florida...
The only bowl game I've ever been to was Clemson versus Ohio State down in Florida. And that was the game that Sammy Watkins went nuts.
Yeah. But that college football, they're just still raw.
Right.
In NFL,
They're playing for the heart of it.
You got to ask, can I tackle you? Do you mind if I hit you? It's like it does nothing for me as a football, like a true gridiron guy. I watch it, but it's like, oh, hit him. He's like, he can't hit him. He does that.
He's going to lay him down.
He's going to lay him down.
Yeah.
I lay you down. I'm laying you out. That's just my philosophy.
Right. Can I ask you a real quick question?
Sure.
Born and raised in Youngstown, right?
Mm-hmm.
When was the moment that you felt, I love this city 100%, one day I'm going to become mayor?
And wait, hold on. Let me add an addendum to that.
Okay.
Not only that, but I'm not leaving here.
Yeah.
I'm staying because you have multiple talents. You could have done anything in any capacity.
Yeah. Here's probably here was the telltale time when I realized I was getting up in my teen years. I became a teenage father.
Okay.
And my son was here, and I realized that I wanted him to have his dad in his life. And there was opportunities that, you can leave, but I always wanted to make sure that even if I was not in the same house with him, I wanted to be in the same space with him.
Okay.
And it paid off extremely for him. He's 30 years old. He's got his college degree. He's working. He's a father. He's everything that I look at. That was probably the piece for me. Now, my friends didn't see it that way. I saw it. But for me, I always thought, if I left, who else is going to be here? And most people leave. Oh, I'm going to leave and let this place burn down. But you want to call it home.
Right.
You wouldn't let your home that you grew up in, your mom and your sisters or your grandmother live in, you wouldn't let that burn down. So that's how I looked at Youngstown. I truly say I love it. I tell my wife, I'm going to die here. You're going to take me and roll me down to Todd Cemetery. I don't know if where the next chapter will take me.
Right.
But I will be here.
And you just said teenage father. And it's like, I think a lot of the times that people like to put, since you did this, you can't become that.
Yeah.
I don't tell this to many people, but I graduated in the bottom 10% of my class, and I'm a business owner today because I focused on the talents that I had. Mm-hmm. I grew up with 5 kids, didn't have a lot of money. Sure. I didn't get anything handed to me. None of my family knows anything about a computer. Mm-hmm. And I did it all because I focused on my talents. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I preach a lot to the inner city kids is just, if you have a talent, don't let anybody, that is all you have. Your talent is absolutely, at the end of the day, whatever your grades say, how many kids you got. I don't care about any of this stuff. Your talent is the only thing that no one can take you away, and it's up to you and only you to pursue to make that talent a dream.
But your talent's not enough. So let's just say that. Your talent's not enough.
It's not enough.
You have an inherent talent, and then you have to work at it
You gotta drive.
consistently.
You got to drive.
You got to drive.
I love what Tito is saying today, and I, you know what, we talked about that, and I've forgotten about that. But this is the thing that's amazing to me is that, not that it's amazing because I know you, but that you had the wherewithal at that particular time in your life. At how old were you at that time? 17, 18?
Yeah, I was 17. It was August of 1989. I was going to be 18 in October. So yeah.
And so to understand the importance. What's your son's name?
Aaron.
The importance that Aaron needed his dad in his life, and Tito stayed. He wasn't, and you probably had opportunities to go all over the place to do whatever you wanted, but he stayed because he knew, and he had the, he understood the value of that, and I think that's something that is first off should be commended. I think that's a great thing, and also kind of to what your point, Brandon, is that you don't have to let these things in your life define you.
No.
You graduated in the lower 10%, and Tito was a teenage father, and all these other things like, you know, well, I'm not using this as an excuse.
Because it's easy to do it.
It's easy to do that. It's easy to do that. Yeah. But the people who become business owners or who become mayor of the city of Youngstown, they look at those things and they understand that these aren't the things that can define me, but they will help me grow as a character and as a human being if I embrace them. And I also, for Tito especially, because I think that teenage pregnancy thing is a tough thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you can let that set you aside on the sideline.
That's a part 2 episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, it really is.
No, it grew me. I tell my son all the time. I tell my son all the time. I'm the man I am today because of you. Mm-hmm. Because I had to. And my mother was. You know, the tough love was right there. You're gonna get a job. You're gonna finish school. So I finished school. I wanted to be college, and it was like, listen, you made that decision. You made that, you know, we didn't call it a mistake. You made that decision, and then you had to grow from it. And my friends always call me dad friend. You're like the dad friend, you know, they'll come to me and say, what do you think about this, Dad? You know, 'cause none of them was fathers at that time.
Right.
You know, when I was working Domino's, I used to work as a Domino's delivery guy.
That's what's up.
I wish I could do that right now. The tips were awesome. I got fed at the end of the day, and it had gas mileage. I mean,
and then you got to complain about the city too. You used to call the mayor on your routes.
Yeah, I used to call the university. You know, like school is out. I don't have anybody to deliver to. You know, we were right on campus, but it gave me an opportunity to learn, and since then I never looked back. So,
last question I have, real quick. Who does the mayor call when the mayor has a situation in Youngstown?
Jim Fogarty.
Yeah.
I always wondered, who does the mayor call?
At what level?
When there's a
a
situation in Youngstown he's upset about.
You call the people above you, right? You call.
Right.
Yeah.
Who do you call? That wasn't really an answer.
No, that's it. Like, the people above me.
You know who he calls?
Yeah.
He calls Lynette.
Yeah.
That's it. That goes back to the female. Absolutely.
That's it.
You're significant of it. Absolutely.
Well, you know, I think this is why that you have been very successful and you have done a fantastic job of changing the perspective of Youngstown and the perception of Youngstown in the last 3 years, is that if I could say one word about it, it's grounded. You're very, very grounded. Well, I think that it's been fantastic listening to you and getting to know you through the course of the last hour and 15 minutes or so. I want to invite you back for season 3, maybe for season 2 at the end. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I wish you all the success in the world. We're super thankful that you came on, and I'm so excited and so I feel like blessed. I'm not from Youngstown. I'm from Warren. But
we're from this area.
But we're from the area. And I am thankful that you are the mayor of Youngstown and you get to shepherd Youngstown into this new era of new perception that's not about Bombtown, USA, Mobtown, USA. It's about Youngstown and rising up in this renaissance.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
It's been a phenomenal time. Time went by so fast, man.
Well, you know what? Let's do another hour.
Let's just say,
you know what? We'll do another hour, but we're going to do it over
on towards the end
at
of this
Modern Methods, and maybe I'll record it on my phone and never release it.
Yeah, please don't.
Never,
But you know, it's like Hangover, right?
Right.
Yeah. One day you're gonna have to show somebody. You won't believe what I saw the mayor
Jim
doing.
and Brandon have lost the mayor.
Yeah, there you
see
go.
The newspaper now.
Well, so a couple of my artist buddies were like, "Oh man, hey man, you gonna meet us over at Modern today? Because today's Friday." And I said, "Yeah, maybe we'll see." I said, but, I'm hosting Mayor Jamael Tito Brown from Youngstown. And they said, well, bring him over. And I said, I'm 100% bringing the mayor of Youngstown over to Modern Methods to sample some beers.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey,
Mayor,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Until the next time.
You can tell we don't want to end this one.
Yeah, I know. It's a good
Brothers,
one.
I'm telling you, we don't want to end this
It's a
one.
good one.
But we got stuff we have to do.
Until the next time, Prodcast listeners, Prodders out there in Prodder Universe, stay electrified and keep on rocking. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
And that is all today. With our main man, Tito Brown, we are going to head out for some bevies, of course, at one of our other sponsors' main hotspots, the Modern Methods Brewery. Now, of course, we recorded this episode prior to COVID, so you can't really get into Modern Methods Brewery and sit down and have a beer, but you can go online, order online, and drive through Dave Grohl Alley, and greeting you through the pull-up door will be one of the team members from Modern Methods with gloves and a mask on to hand you your prepaid order. That's pretty sweet. I actually did this the other day and got myself a little bit of beer and had a little bit of fun with a group of my buddies on a Zoom meeting. And I might have a Zoom meeting later this evening, with my main man, Brandon Giovanni, also one of our fine sponsors, Brandon Giovanni, MDI Studios, my co-host and your favorite co-host. Your favorite co-host, man, the only co-host of the podcast. And we want to thank him for doing all the web updates, et cetera, et cetera. If you go to theprodcast.net, that's his handiwork, where you can go back and listen to episodes from season 1. You can click on the link to Facebook. We always encourage you to like, listen, and subscribe at theprodcast.net. And, of course, we want to thank the team members here at Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. We are here available for your production and advertising needs. Until the next time, until part 2 of the Youngstown Twofer, stay electrified, love each other, be kind, and we'll all get through this coronavirus thing together. Talk to y'all soon. Take care. Bye.